You were taught to have the answer before anyone asked the question. You were taught to project confidence even when you were falling apart inside. You were taught that slowing down is a liability. That doubt is a weakness. That showing too much of yourself makes you less credible. And I need to ask you something. How is that working for you? Because if you're leading a team right now and you feel more exhausted than fulfilled, if your results look good on paper but something inside feels misaligned, if you're pushing harder and somehow getting further from the connection that you actually want with your people, this video is for you. What nobody tells you in leadership development programs, with the book skip over, with the conference panels gloss past, is that two of the most transformational qualities you need as a leader are the same two qualities that the world told you to hide: vulnerability and patience. Stay with me. Before we go deeper, if you've been carrying a leadership challenge that you haven't had the space to think through, I want you to know about my virtual mind. It's available 24/7. It's trained on my framework for connected leadership and is built to be your thinking partner when you need real-time support in between sessions, videos, or whenever the work gets heavy. Check it out. The link is in the description below. Now back to what we're here for. Researcher Brené Brown spent years studying what she calls wholeheartedness. And what she found is that most of us are not leading from a whole place. We're leading from a protected place. We learned early in school, at home, in our jobs that being vulnerable meant being exposed. That showing uncertainty meant losing the room. So we built our armor, not the obvious kind, the subtle kind. Brown calls it being cool, acting like things don't affect us, detaching from outcomes so we can't be blamed for them, moving so fast that no one has time to question the gaps. And here's what that armor costs us. Brown's research is really clear on this. Every gain in cool is a loss in wholeheartedness. Let me say that again. Every time you protect yourself from feeling exposed, you also protect yourself from feeling connected. If you can't feel connected to your own leadership, how do you build connection with your people? I want to name something that a lot of leaders do. And I'm not judging it because I've done it too. Fake it till you make it. Heard it and you probably lived it. And it got you somewhere. But here's what the research actually says about that strategy in long term. Performing confidence you don't feel consistently generates three things: fear, blame, and disconnection. Fear, because you're always waiting to be found out. Blame, because when things go wrong, you can't own it if you were never really showing up as yourself. And disconnection from your team, your values, and eventually from yourself. That is the real cost of armor, not weakness, not failure. Exhaustion from the performance of being someone you were never supposed to be. Here's what I need you to understand about vulnerability. It's not fragility. It's not oversharing. It's not losing professional credibility. Vulnerability in leadership is the willingness to let your real self lead, not the polished version, not the version that has every answer, the version that says, I don't have this figured out yet, but I'm committed to working through it with you. That kind of honesty from a leader, it doesn't make your team trust you less. It makes them trust you more. Because people don't follow perfect leaders, they follow real ones. Brown's research puts it this way: when difficult emotions show up in our relationships, when tension rises in a team, when a conversation gets hard, we have two choices. We can turn toward each other or we can turn away. Most leaders turn away. Not because they don't care, but because they were never given permission to turn toward. Vulnerability is learning to turn toward anyway. That choice, that single choice, is what builds trust that lasts. Brown's work shows us that when we build shame resilience, when we practice gratitude, set real boundaries, and redefine what success actually looks like, we become more open to vulnerability, not less guarded in a reckless way, more available in a grounded way. That is a different thing entirely. So vulnerability is about dropping the armor. But here's where most leaders get stuck. Because dropping the armor doesn't mean having no strategy. It means having a different kind of strength. The strength that knows when to move fast and when to hold still. A strength that leads from purpose, not from pressure. That's where patience comes in. And I don't mean the kind of patience where you grit your teeth and wait. I mean the kind that changes history. Think about Rosa Parks. She didn't change history because she just snapped one day. She changed history because she was so rooted in the purpose that when the moment came, she simply refused to give it away. I was tired of giving in. That is not weakness. That is the most powerful sentence a leader can speak. Now think about Malala Yousafzai. She was shot in her face for her leadership. And instead of retreating, she used that experience to deepen her conviction. These leaders didn't move fast, they moved purposefully. There is a difference, and that difference is what I want to break down for you. True patience in leadership is made up of 8 qualities, and I want to walk you through the ones that matter the most for where you are now. Purpose. Patient leaders are driven by something bigger than the results of this quarter. Angela Merkel once said, "Purpose, not the leader, authority, or power, is what creates and animates a community." If you don't know your purpose as a leader, you will constantly be reactive. Purpose is what keeps you grounded when the pressure picks up. Approachability. Here's something that's worth sitting with. The leaders who create the most loyalty are not the ones who demand respect. They're the ones who make their people feel seen. There's a story I love about the former CEO of PepsiCo. She wrote personal notes to the parents of her executives, not to the executives themselves, to their parents, because she understood something that most senior leaders missed. Effective leaders don't exploit, they encourage. And encouragement starts with seeing the whole person in front of you. Tolerance. Tolerant leaders understand that broad-mindedness is not a compromise. It's a competitive advantage. The mayor of Hamtramck, Michigan, at the time was becoming the country's first majority Muslim city council. There was real fear in that transition, and the mayor didn't dismiss it. She acknowledged it, and then she led through it by choosing tolerance over reactivity. Her position was simple. When we focus on individual strengths instead of individual differences, everyone benefits. Intolerance stunts growth. Tolerance powers it. That's not a soft idea. That's an organizational truth. Empathy. Being empathetic is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of maturity. Mother Teresa didn't hold a string of executive titles. She held people, and her impact was global because she understood one thing. You don't need more credentials to care. You just need to actually care. Nurturing. Patient leaders don't just tolerate the people around them. They actively invest in them. Sheryl Sandberg, during her tenure as COO of Facebook, was known for being a genuine team player. Not because she had to be, but because she chose to use her position to help, not hinder. She stayed level-headed when things were hard. She kept showing up for her people. And under that kind of leadership, Facebook moved from unprofitable to profitable. I want you to sit with that. Nurturing leadership is not a nice to have. It's a business result. Confidence, not the performed kind, the rooted kind. The kind that says, I've been through hard things and I'm still here. And I know something about who I am and the other side of difficulty. That is the confidence that makes people want to follow you. Endurance. Real lasting change doesn't happen in a quarter. It doesn't always happen in a year. Pat Summitt, the legendary women's basketball coach at Tennessee, washed her team's uniforms, drove the van to games, did whatever needed to be done in the early years because she knew that the vision was bigger than the current moment. She retired with a record second to none, not because she rushed, but because she stayed. Here's what I want you to take from this. Vulnerability and patience are not soft skills. They are the psychological infrastructure of sustainable leadership. When you drop the armor, when you stop leading from fear, when you lead from patience, you stop making decisions from pressure. And when you put those two things together, you stop performing leadership and you start practicing it. The only control we truly have is how we receive, perceive, and respond. Not the outcome, not the timeline, not what other people decide to do. Your receive, perceive, and respond, and the vulnerability and patience are the exact qualities that slow that process down enough for you to actually choose your response instead of reacting to the situation. That is where your power lives. I want to leave you with something to sit with before we close. Where in your leadership are you still performing? Not leading, performing. Where are you in fake it mode? And what would it look like to just be real there instead? Drop your answer in the comments. I read them and I mean that. If something in this video hit somewhere real for you and you're not ready to let it go, my virtual mind is waiting for you. It's built to hold this kind of conversation with you. The nuanced one, the real ones, the I can't say it out loud to my team ones. Available to you now. No appointment needed. The link is in the description. Leadership was never supposed to feel like a performance. It was supposed to feel like purpose. And you don't get there by being harder on yourself. You get there by being more honest with yourself. Vulnerability isn't the risk, the armor is. Connect to yourself first, then elevate and expand for those you lead.